Mike and Dave rolling, boots on the ground. Big Rooster Media making their rounds, tackling water.
What's up, Klamath Falls? This is Mike.
What's up, Klamath Falls? This is Dave.
What's up, Klamath Falls? This is Kelly.
Happy to have you
I'm
here.
on the team already. I'm like,
Right?
I'm already so on this team.
Well, you brought beer. Of course you're on the team.
I know, and I want to share. So this isn't just any beer. This is the beer that Deschutes made particularly for our air show coming up on the weekend of the 19th. So this is a nod to Kingsley and to our fighter pilots who I just adore. And yeah, I thought I heard that would be appropriate on this show. So I'm like, I'm bringing beer. And I'm going to have one.
And we really appreciate that. And I will join you because this iced tea doesn't seem so appealing now that there's beer in front of me.
Guests need to step up. Thank you.
Yeah. If you're invited to be on the show from this point on, here's the standard.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Kelly.
My new friends.
Yes, thank you. I have had this because the Garage Tap has this available. Yes, thank you.
And it's delicious, but it's Deschutes, so I figured it would be.
I know. I always pull for our local guys and gals, but this is an exception because.
Right. Yeah, no, well, Rye and Ty make some pretty good beers.
Their beers are amazing. I love those guys.
I'll always give them a shout out.
Yes,
So I still owe Ty or Rye because of, yeah. I don't know if you heard that story.
No.
About I'll cover it real quick. Dave's grunting over here.
You got
to bring that up again.
Whatever.
Yes.
So about a year or so ago, a letter went out to the water users, and it was just saying that, hey, you're not going to get water in these areas, and it had Ryan's name on it and a phone number. And me being ignorant, for lack of a better way to put it at the time, I'll be honest, shouted out to the water users and said, hey, you're not going to get your water, and this is the guy that you should talk to, and here's his phone number. Ryan wasn't real happy with me. It didn't go well at all. So anyway, we've since definitely made amends.
I was going to say, we're all friends now.
Absolutely. Yep. Ryan's got he was not happy with me, but he's been on the show twice now, and he's just a great guy. And now
Smart.
he is. And so is Gene Souza over at KID. That guy is amazing too. And so we've made amends, and we're all buddies now. And so, well, and I might have had a sip or two of whiskey with Ryan to make amends. So it's all good.
Okay, that will do it.
All right. But we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to, you had a few topics that you wanted to go over with us, and we are happy to have you on the show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And
We had the rookie, so now we have the veteran.
I
Sorry,
call
Andy.
I call him new guy still, and I was like, Andy, I don't know. I think I'm always going to call you new guy. But Commissioner Kelly Minty, I introduced myself as Kelly, but for those maybe that are watching that don't know, I am the senior commissioner. I've been on the board a little while, love it. And I did give you some topics we can talk about, but I'm happy to talk about anything. I told them before we started that at some point I may end up asking them questions because they've got this super cool studio. They're doing amazing work. I think
Thank you.
podcasts are like, I was old school media. I worked in TV news 800 years ago.
I
And
talked to
when I was
Kingsley
young-
yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was my alma mater. I started
Yep.
at KOTI when I was literally, I think I was 21 years old. I was right out of college. And I loved that work. I was, for those that remember Lyle, I was Lyle before Lyle. I always say, Lyle, you owe your career to me because I got him that job. He's watching. He knows that's true. So I have a media background, and podcasting is like the media now.
It
it's
is.
the hip media. So I'm like, kudos to you guys. Great space. And I always everyone says you guys are cool dudes. So I'm super stoked.
Well, thank you. That's good to hear. Yeah.
It's weird how it's changed. I mean, because you could spend, a quick hit, 90 seconds, or it can open up into beers or whatever else you want to talk about.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. It's not rushed. It's
Right.
we're here.
It's not we got to talk about these things and these things only. But I like to give people an opportunity to bring to the table what they would like to have,
Yeah. And I mean, the one main thing because I reached out to you, is that I want to share. Sure, there's a lot of challenges that any elected official could talk about anywhere in America, right? Like there's always going to be things. Sure, we have challenges. I'm not Pollyanna. I'm not saying we don't have challenges, but we have far more positive things going on in this community right now that are super exciting that I think sometimes get overlooked. And I don't think it's anyone's ill intention. It's our job, those in leadership, to tell the stories. How else would you know? So I just said, we've got a lot of cool things going on in this community right now. We're one of the big ones, and you said you were excited about it, is we're working on really making better use of our waterfront. We have a beautiful waterfront that is very underutilized.
Oh, yeah, Lake Ewanna?
Yes.
Yeah.
We could be like a mini Lake Tahoe, and not that we necessarily want that per se, but I think I've heard over the years, and I really collect what I hear from people. I value what I hear from people. And what people have said for years and years and years is, why don't we have like restaurants and little wine bars and shops along the waterfront? Why don't we have people out there in kayaks and canoes? And, the water quality is a little different than, say, a Lake Tahoe, but we still could have recreation on the water. We could have commerce on the water. And so we're working on it. We just said, let's stop spinning our wheels and let's be very intentional and start working on it. So there's an effort. The Lake Ewanna Wellness Project is what we're calling it, but it's really just let's spruce up the waterfront, make it more attractive. Let's get more going on down there.
Right. Well, and I was happy at Timber Mill Shores to see, the hotels going in there. I mean, that's a start in that area. That was just wasted land otherwise.
Exactly. And you got to start somewhere. And I can't remember exactly what year all that development started, but I know, 10 years ago, we were all saying, we got to just start. There's got to be something. And now there is. And that's why I say there's more positive going on than I think people realize.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that long ago that those hotels weren't down there or that development wasn't down there. So I think, what's it like? Memories can be very short term, right? It's it wasn't that long ago we didn't have that. And so we're getting there. We still have work to do, but we're getting there. And I truly believe we're on the right track, and we've got a lot of momentum.
So if I recall correctly, there's about a $3 million budget for Lake Ewanna for redeveloping that.
Right now, that's probably about where we're at. I mean, we've divided the project essentially into phases. And I mean, what we want to do eventually, phase 5, is a small dredge project. That's another thing people have been talking about forever. And I finally was like, stop telling us we can't do this. Like the powers that be, whether it's the state. And an example that I've shared with people is there was somebody at a state agency, I don't need to say their name, but very high up, that when I was asking about dredging as a new commissioner, this green commissioner, hey, my community wants dredging. Can we do that? He said, basically, he didn't pat me on the head, but almost silly girl, no. When you say you want to dredge your lake, that's the equivalent of saying you want to build a staircase to the moon. Stop saying that. Well, at the time, I kind of said, okay, don't sound stupid as a new commissioner. And then a couple years ago, I'm like, why not? The state of Oregon owns a dredge that is stationed in Coos Bay all the time. Why can't we borrow that?
Right.
So, we're just we're starting to just not take no for an answer.
Good.
And we're working on it. But yes, it's it's phased out. Each phase has dollar signs or, dollars attached to it. But I just want people to know that, like you, we envision a better, more utilized lakefront that will promote economic development and tourism.
And I'm so glad that was the answer I was hoping to hear, that it wasn't just development around the lake that money was going to be spent on. It's actually to try to improve the lake. And I don't think there might be some misconception, and people might not even know this, but so water treatment dumps water in the Lake Ewanna, which a lot of people immediately hear that and think it's a turnoff. What they don't know is that water is held to a higher standard than our drinking water. So the output that comes off of our water treatment facility is cleaner than by mandate than what the water is. That not saying that it necessarily is, but by mandate it has to be meet a specification that's more strict than our drinking water. So I have zero issue once some of the algae may be removed of jumping in there. I took my cousin water skiing in Lake Ewana a few years ago. So
Well, and I don't need to get us too far sidetracked, but I mean, there is something to also the fact that it is they are very healing waters. I had one time where I had gotten drug. I was doing a contest. I got drug across a field on my elbows.
Oh.
I was so into winning, I didn't notice that like basically all my skin came off, and I went and sat myself in the lake, and I kid you not, I healed up so fast. So I love our lake as is, but also I know we could make it more attractive.
right. Well, good. I am super happy to hear that, because that's one of the reasons we started this was because there's a lot of people that are naysayers about Klamath Falls, Klamath County. There is so much potential here, and it is what you make of it. And so this was, and granted, there's negative stuff, and we do cover the negative stuff too. But for the most part, this is to try to promote Klamath Falls and Klamath County, because it's a great place to live. You have to want that. You have to make it that on your own. So
Exactly. And I appreciate that so much in the work that you're doing. And we are very like-minded, because that's what I always tell people is, I can't think of a greater place. I've got to see a lot of this country, and there's a lot of beautiful places, and we live in a beautiful country. And this is the most beautiful in my mind. And this is, I grew up in the Willamette Valley, and when I came here as a 21-year-old, I fell in love, as only, a 21-year-old can. And I will never go anywhere else.
Right.
I love the work I get to do. Thank you to the voters who have supported me. It's the greatest job in the world. I'll stay as long as the voters keep me. And this is the greatest community to live in. I will live here forever. So I'm glad you share the passion for Klamath.
absolutely. I relocated here 20 years ago, and because I fell in love with it like you did. And I'm not going to let the negatives that there are interfere with me enjoying being here.
Yeah. Well, you have
So,
a beautiful
for lack of a better way to
home.
put
You
it.
have this fun gig. I mean, you've sort of got it made.
It's not bad. It's
I
not
wanna be
bad.
you when I grow up.
Thanks, I think.
That was a compliment.
I think this, I'll say it. I say it all the time. This is the best non-job I've ever had.
I love that.
Come out here, do whatever we want to talk about, have people on, get to know them.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's been a year and going on a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it's just been a lot of fun. We've got to meet a lot of great people. So
And learn, I bet.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you all know as much about Klamath as just about anyone.
I know a lot about water that I never knew before.
You
Thanks,
might-
Ryan and Jean.
Yeah, it's like water is such a very important topic, and something that man, you could get a PhD in. There's so much to learn, and I really rely on the same type of people you do. I'm definitely not an expert. I care very much, but I can't say that I know everything about it. It's complicated, both legally, the science, all of it. But I will say, and we have a lot of great people in this community working on it. The names you mentioned, and Klamath Water Users and Family Farm Alliance, and we have a lot of great people doing the work, and I'm so thankful to them, because it would take your whole, like, if me as a commissioner, if that's where I only focused on, it would be the only thing you could ever do.
Right.
Because it is so complicated.
But I still see the ag community. That's the backbone of our community, period. We have the hospital, we have the base, which is a close second, I would say, and OIT. I'm not selling any of those short, but this community was built on timber and ag. And
Absolutely. Our natural resource based economy has done very well for us. And we do know it's threatened. And we can't, we have to keep fighting.
We do.
Because It is, many lived through what happened with timber, and thankfully, I think there's more opportunity there, and I think there's still potential to start doing more in that area, but we cannot lose sight of how important agriculture is. I feel, even though I'm not from here, but I've been here a long time. My granddad ran cattle, and he was a homesteader in the Tule Lake area when he was a young
wow.
man for his dad. So even before I moved to Klamath and this area, the Klamath Basin was a very special place in my family and for ag and
Right.
ranching. So very important. I am always supporting the people that are really doing the heavy lifting, and just like my hat's off to them, because what a noble cause. How can people argue that we shouldn't be growing food in our country?
Right. But yet it's such a thankless job because they are being fought at every angle every year.
Yeah,
Every year.
which makes no sense. I mean, especially with all the turmoil that is around the globe.
Right.
How could we ever lose sight of how important it is to grow food in our own country for, for our people, but also for our economic vitality?
Well, and national security too. You don't want to have to depend on somebody else to be shipping you food when we have more than enough capacity here to grow our own.
Well, and so you totally teed me up. If I can talk a little bit about the
Swing away.
I'm like, thank you.
We're pros.
You guys are pros. So on exactly that thought of like, we grow a lot of food in this community, but one critique I heard over lots of years, similar to the why don't we have a better lakefront, was why don't we have a way to like connect our local food to our local people? Like, it's very hard to just like go buy a Klamath potato, even though we're like the best potato producer in the country. And so we
Suck it, Idaho.
yeah, Idaho, whatever. So I love bullying other states on this show. I'm a big fan of that. Let's bully some more if we can get to it. So we came up with this concept of, we really need a local food hub. We need a place. It would help growers, and it will help our ag folks to be able to show off their food. And it will help our local community to really understand. You brought up how, you two are very informed about how important ag is, but and a lot of people are, but a lot of people aren't.
Right.
They don't know, and you can't blame them. They're getting kids to soccer practice, and they're, working whatever job they have, and maybe they don't really understand.
And pasture land is just in their peripheral vision.
Or they've either always seen it, and so they kind of take it for granted, or maybe they're not from here, and so they
Right.
don't really know. So we just came up with this concept. We needed a place for OSU Extension anyway. They had grown out of their facility, and so we purchased. And then another factor was the fairgrounds needed a little more parking. So this all sort of came together in the purchase of what was an old bowling alley, Hanscom's Bowling Alley. The county acquired it, and we thought, this is the spot for the food hub. Let's put OSU Extension. Let's have a connection with the fairgrounds, and let's work with Klamath Grown, which is currently the online farmers market, and connects ag with people, events like Find Your Farmer and stuff like that. And like, let's have a place to showcase local food and connect our community with it. So we bought the bowling alley. The project is going to be it's going to be done in phases as well. We're aiming to really get going on it. We're fundraising now. We're not attempting to use local tax dollars on it. I know some people will say, well, we need cops. Why are you spending money on a food hub? We're not using local tax dollars on it. But we're fundraising. Like, we're trying to hit up entities like maybe USDA or, other entities through federal government or private funders that would be supportive of both ag and, education and these things. So super excited about the food hub. It will be, in my mind, a game change for our community and for agriculture.
Is there anything the local community can do to help out with the fundraising that you're aware of?
Yeah, I mean, it if people come across anything, whether it's grants, whether it's funders or ideas or fundraisers, whatever, and then at some, when we get going on the actual work, I mean, if there's people that that are maybe in construction or have something that they want to donate, we would, hands out, we'll
Right.
take it, we'll
Okay.
take it. Because this is a community project. This isn't, just the commissioners or just OSU Extension or just the fairgrounds. This is a community project. And I just can't wait till we can really show off our local agriculture in a place,
Right.
in one place where people can really go and understand it and connect to it.
And I try to support that. I will go to local butcher shops and try my best to buy local meat. I'm retired now, so I have the luxury if I go grocery shop for meat at one place, bring it home, and then I go either to the farmer's market or the grocery store and whatever I could bring in to go along with that. Trying to support what's going on, and I love the farmer's market. That's such a great deal,
It is.
and that's a good way for them to promote themselves as well.
Absolutely. And we need like the online at the farmers market and the online farmers market. There was definitely a need for to expand what they do there with cold storage and things like that. So all of those elements are in this food hub, and it's just going to be so cool.
Awesome.
Well, local and fresher fruits and veggies are always, if you haven't had them, they always taste better. I mean, less chemicals and fresher, local. It's just better.
Oh, it is.
Dave is a closet chef.
Are you really?
And whether it's food or cocktails, if it isn't fresh ingredients, he's not happy with it.
Okay.
So he is, yeah.
Yeah.
He.
What's your signature dish? Brag a little. What are you good at making, or what do you like to make?
Snap.
Oh,
What is it, Dave?
I make my own spaghetti sauce.
Oh, yum.
And I copied the recipe, and it's fantastic.
I grill quite a bit. Ribs. I'm doing a pork belly for 4th of July.
Yum.
I don't know. I just whatever's fresh. I don't really have a signature whatever. Talking
Makes the
Quality
best
and
old fashioned
Yes.
you've ever had.
Yeah, that's a skill. I believe it.
So yeah, I'll give it out to shout out to the farmers market, and then Joe's Produce on what is that 5th right downtown. He's incredible. It's just you got to get what's in season when it's in season. It's incredible.
It is.
And
Howard's meat.
Howard's meat. Yeah, the fresher, the smaller you can get is better.
Yes. Yeah. Seasonal, all those good things.
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm not I'm Italian, so the sauce, that's right up my alley. I'm an okay chef, and I'm an okay baker and stuff, but it's all about one thing I have learned over the years: quality ingredients. Quality ingredients can keep it kind of simple, but high quality ingredients, and your food will taste amazing.
Yep.
And have a few drinks beforehand, and then it'll really taste
And
good.
during, maybe after.
Well, and it's opposite of what you think, because if you get the quality, whatever is fresher, whatever right there, it's usually the cheapest.
I know.
And most people don't understand that. So, yeah.
There's definitely a stereotype or a misnomer or something that eating healthy is really expensive. And groceries in general have gotten more expensive. That's not to suggest that they haven't. But if you stick to the unprocessed, like you said, like the fresh, in season, unprocessed, it's often much cheaper than the more heavily processed, quote, junk food, and and healthier. So, but I think there's a misconception that eating healthy has to be expensive. It can be, but it doesn't have to.
Right.
Yeah, if you're getting flown in quinoa or whatever, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Or I went through a phase years and years ago now. I can't even believe now as much cheese and dairy as I eat now. I can't believe I went through this little phase where I was a vegan. And I know.
I'm sorry.
I know. You're like kicked out of the studio right away. It was
All right, thanks, folks. We're done.
it was brief, and actually my own grandmother like gave me a very hard time about it. She was just like, I can't wait till you're over this phase. And it really was a phase. And actually a very quick but funny story is when I was in that little phase, you don't eat dairy, and my parents were cooking in the kitchen. They live in the Willamette Valley, and I heard my mom say to my dad, like, "Oh, Mark, don't put butter in that. Kelly doesn't do dairy." And he just goes, "She won't know." And I'm like, I can hear you. I did know. But anyway, so what you learned is my family was not very supportive of this brief vegan, but all the faux cheeses and stuff like that, they were very expensive. That was a very expensive way to eat. And so just underscoring that the fresher, the local, it can often be less expensive and healthier.
Right.
And eat meat.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit on you.
Okay.
Because your very first line item that you sent me has got me pushing for a safer Highway 97.
Yes.
And that's a great idea. What part and how?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not trying to be difficult.
No.
I'm all for it.
That's good. So over the last, and you've probably noticed it because you're active on social media, you're active in the community. I would say over the last 6 months that there has been a bubbling up from the community of, we are tired of this dangerous highway. I don't want to get my facts and figures wrong, and I don't have them right in front of me, but it is safe to say, no pun intended, that it is one of the most dangerous highways in our state, if not maybe the most dangerous in terms of like accidents per mile and all of those calculations. And I can get you the actual stats. I'm happy to share those. Again, I just don't have them in front of me. But I don't think anyone would argue that it's a dangerous highway.
Well, and especially I ride motorcycles and going like up north, going to Bend or that general direction, there's some parts of that are really uncomfortable when you're on a bike, because you don't know, people are edging over, wanting to pass. And so
I'm terrified for you because I worry as I drive that highway a lot if I'm going to Salem for work. I'm worried in a car. So yeah, please be super, super careful. It's a scary highway. It's become scary. And so this is needing more, like we would all love a 4-lane highway. That would improve the safety for sure. However, we've learned over the years that is very, 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 very expensive. We are not the first group of leaders, and I'm including you guys, that have thought, let's improve this highway. It's expensive. I will give ODOT some credit in that over the years they have done passing, expanded the amount of passing lanes and things like that, kind of a mile at a time. To, how do you eat an elephant? You take a bite at a time, right? So they have done some of that, but it's not enough. And I think it's one of these things where it's come to a tipping point where I think all of us in leadership, and again, I include the community. It's not just elected people. I could include the community. We just all have to keep pushing on it. There is money in the state for, state highways, and we got to keep getting, we can't keep getting left out. They can't keep spending all the money in the Portland metropolitan area.
Right.
We have a dangerous highway that hundreds and thousands of people drive on, and it deserves the attention. So I am going to sort of make it one of my big personal priorities to just keep beating that drum and looking for solutions. I don't just want to beat up on Salem all the time. But for example, and little side note, we've got a lot of smart people in this community, a lot of smart people. So our public works director is one of those smart people, engineer, real smart guy. His name's Jeremy Morris, shout out. He was saying the other day, one thing that could be considered is developing a safety corridor. everyone I'm sure drives at times from Klamath to Medford, let's
Right.
say, and there's the area that's the safety corridor, and the speed's reduced a little, and apparently, statistically, those safety corridors work.
Really?
They reduce the number of crashes. They especially reduce the number of fatal crashes. So, are there going to be some of your viewers that are watching that don't like the idea of the speed reduced? Yes, I understand that, but I'm willing to turn over any solution to we can't have kids die. We can't have anyone dying on that highway. We can't have kids. We can't have teenagers
Right.
die. They don't have. And I was not a great driver when I was a teenager either. You're inexperienced. It's not that you're a bad person or whatever. You're inexperienced. We're having inexperienced drivers. We're having distracted drivers, sometimes intoxicated drivers, and just people. Stuff happens, and it's just a dangerous place that needs to be improved.
Well, it just seems like people are more impatient now than they ever have been before, and they just don't want to wait for that passing lane or for it to be even safe. If there's not a passing lane, they just pass where it's clear. They're just not patient anymore. They just try to force the issue, and it's not worth dying over.
No, they're not patient, and they're often distracted.
Yeah.
And so the combination is literally, without hyperbole, the combination is deadly. And so that's just something that right now, normally I like to focus on things that are positive and proactive and projects. Right now, this is in my top sort of 3 things that I'm going to be pushing on.
Well, good.
It's a weird little conundrum where we're at. I moved to Texas shortly, 2016. Yes, 2016, and I moved back 21. And so in the meantime, 97 got raised up to 65. 140 stayed 55. Now, 55 is optional going to Medford. I'll put it anymore, but I'm not. It's weird just having a 55 with more turns and elevation changes. I'll put it that way. So I'm not. It's just weird. A safety corridor going on 97, it almost makes sense. I mean,
I think it's worth a try. And again, there's going to be people who hate the idea, and I'm going to probably get a few gnarly emails, and that is okay. Or at least it's worth talking about.
Right.
Right.
I think it's going to be one of these issues where we need. It's not going to be one thing. We need more education. We need more enforcement. We do need more expanded highway, passing. Eventually, I hope it's a 4-lane highway. But I do think a safety corridor, and thank you to Jeremy for the idea, is worth exploring.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, I've got Kingsley F-35s. And I don't know if you saw the episode we did or not, but so Mark McDaniel used to be the wing commander for the base.
Okay.
He's also my neighbor. So he was on here about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and shared some great ideas. But I want to hear from the commissioner's side of things what your thoughts are as well.
Yeah. Well, F-35 is probably in my time in office when we got the announcement that we were going to be slated for the F-35. I mean, that might be the highlight of my entire time in office so far, is getting that announcement. We had said it seriously as like a dream years ago. We were saying the F-35 by 2025, and sometimes when you have that dream and you're optimistic and you're a hopeful person, but you're also like, it's not going to happen. And so this is a dream come true. This is an awesome aircraft, well suited for Kingsley. And I do feel very secure in saying this. We have the best airspace in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally makes sense for them to put this investment here. This is going to take our community into the next, 5 decades. Like, this is a huge, huge deal. Actually, one time Congressman Cliff Bent sort of teased me a little bit because I always talk about the F-35. Always, always, always. One time I forgot to mention it. And he was basically like, you need to talk about the F-35 every single time you speak. And I was like, I know, he's right on that. But it's a huge deal for our community. It's it's our economic vitality. It is, continuing to promote our country's security, its employment, it's all the things. So I'm really excited. The one thing I've done, well, two things I'll share quickly. I have been on so Big Air Force has a what's called AETC, Air Education Training Command, might be. If I got the acronym wrong, I apologize, but we always just call it AETC. So what AETC is all the bases in the country that have a training mission, exclusively a training mission, are under one general. And that general has a civic leaders council. So civic leaders from only places that have a training mission get to be on this council. So I've got to be on the council. It's awesome. So it has allowed me the opportunity to network with other civic leaders in places that have training bases. So I've got to network with people and learn from people who already have the F-35. And amazingly, to me, other communities do not get as excited as we do. People in other communities complain about noise or whatever. And, here we all know it's like Sound of Freedom. Like,
Absolutely.
we love it. So we're the most supportive community, which I love. I'm so proud. Yay, us. And so I got to do that. And then the only other thing I'll mention is that when we did get the announcement that we were getting the F-35, I launched, I call it the KF, like for Klamath Falls, the KF-35 Task Force. And what it is basically a group of leaders that gather to make sure our community's ready. And what I mean by that is we listen to the base commander and we actively ask him, what do we need to be doing? What can we do? What should we be working on? What needs do you have that aren't being met? So we don't get together like every week or anything, but we maybe have a task force meeting once every couple of months just to make sure we're doing our part. Like I would be devastated if there was something that came up that the base needed that we just weren't aware of, and so we weren't doing. So F-35 task force, and we cannot wait to get those airplanes. It sounds like we may get some even a little earlier than we initially thought. That's news for the base to share, but I
Right.
think we may get some a little earlier than we thought. And we just-
Allegedly.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I can very confidently say it is probably one of the most thrilling news for Klamath County.
And they've paid us a visit or two already. I've seen them flying around. I had an option when I came up with the logo for What's Up Klamath Falls. You want to put an F-15 on there? And I'm like, no, the F-35s are coming. Let's do that. So
That's actually a really good logo.
we went with that.
I like it.
We talked about the Lake Ewanna project. So one thing on an aside on that, and it's not necessarily related to Lake Ewanna, but the payments in lieu of timber, the PILT
Taxes,
money
payment
that's
in
coming
lieu
in,
of
and with taxes, that's it. So is there anything, is that on anybody's radar as far as a specific project for that money? Is it going to be?
That essentially supports the basic services
Okay.
that we're providing. And for those that aren't aware, I can explain it really quickly. Payment in lieu of taxes is essentially the fact that almost 60% of our county is owned by the federal government. Unlike, your gorgeous house and the property taxes you pay, federal government does not pay like property tax on all the property that they have here. So they have come up with this calculation, payment in lieu of taxes. It does not nearly cover or make up for the amount of land here, but it is what it is. I mean, I feel like we're sort of fighting, not sort of, we are fighting and pushing on the federal government a lot, all the time, regardless of administration, whatever side. I mean, it's just a constant. I think that our federal government has often no problem leaving counties high and dry. And counties provide the most immediate basic services that people expect.
Right.
And it's our responsibility. We do it with pleasure, and we're also required. I mean, we are required to hold elections. We are required to have a jail. We are required to have a district attorney's office and provide services under, communicable disease and under public health and all these things we're legally required to do, and we're happy to do it because we want our community served. But federal government does not pay their fair share.
Okay. And so that was good. I'm glad I asked that question because I got the impression that was like the former timber payments that we used to get, but
Yeah,
it's
kind of. So it's
it is, but it's not, huh?
it is, but it's not. So oftentimes, so they developed a program. I can't remember what year, but essentially with the recognition that when all of us timber counties were very wealthy back in the days when we cut trees. And I'm just being very plain spoken. So we were very wealthy and we had no trouble providing. I mean, those commissioners back then, and I say this with a smile, like they had it easy. Like I'm sure they didn't. I mean, I'm sure they had their own challenges, but they had a lot of resources. And it was developed the right way. It was through business. They're doing things that wasn't just taxing people all the time. It was cutting timber and using the resource. And when big legislation that people know, Spotted Owl and those Endangered Species Act, when those things were implemented and these rural communities that were used to being able to, it wasn't, we were able to pay our own way. We were able to take care of ourselves. And when that dried up, somebody had to step in and make up for that. And because these were federal policies like Endangered Species Act that created this, there was a recognition by some federal leadership that, okay, so they developed this secure rural schools, and that was like kind of to offset it. It never truly does, but it's something,
Right.
so like we need it. Like I would love to be able to sit here and say like, oh, we just, tell those feds to shove it and send their money back. No, we need it because we need a jail and we need these things. But they basically hold the puppet strings on us for that. And I think it's not like it's complicated. Anyone would understand it if they learned it, but there's a lot to it that people probably don't know. And, but what would be the best is if we could take care of ourselves.
Right.
And if we could, through timber ag and all of our other economic development, if we could provide those services. But for now, we're sort of in this pattern with the federal government of kind of having to ask them for secure rural schools, at the very least, payment in lieu of taxes. Again, that's not a give me. That's you own property here, and everyone else would have to pay property tax. You should too.
Right. Fair enough. Good. I'm glad I asked that question. We talked about like we want a project, keeping more Oregon Tech students here. I love that, and I think Commissioner DeGroot shares that vision very strongly with you.
Yeah, I think
Not to
so.
say that Andrew Nichols doesn't. I'm just
The whole board does. And this is another one of those ones where, for years we've been talking about how do we make this community, like, let's not export. I like I like that we export potatoes and different things. I don't like that we export our brightest students and our young people.
Right.
That is an export I'm not a fan of. So but in fairness to the youth, they need to go where there's going to be the jobs, where there's the livability, where there's the things that they want. So I don't begrudge them. We got to step up.
right.
So it's part of the lakefront development. It's part of the food hub. All these things that we're trying to do to make this community more attractive. I mean, the younger generation, I think I'm considered, what am I, Gen X maybe? I don't even know. I'm not a millennial. And I'm definitely not the one younger than that. I'm very old, very old. But they have different, we're all human and we all share a lot of the same desires, but they have different needs
Right.
oftentimes, or they prioritize things differently. So, a lot of them want just a really beautiful work-life balance. They want outdoor activities. They love that they can, in 10 minutes or, 15, 20 minutes, be at Spence Mountain, riding a mountain bike on a Thursday. we've been, and that's part of why we've done things like keep supporting the development of Spence Mountain and all of these things, is because we want this to be a community that young people can stay in because there's employment, and that they want to stay in because they think it's, it meets their needs. So keeping Oregon Tech and KCC students and our high school students, keeping them here, again, our best and brightest, we don't want to export them. We want them to stay here, but we got to do our part.
Right, right. And I know at one time Dick Went had a vision of opening up a ski resort out by Running Y. Is that
Pelican Butte.
ever, huh?
Pelican Butte.
Pelican Butte.
So my understanding is that I think it's called the Roadless Act. It was some legislation under former President Bill Clinton that got enacted that killed that project because
Okay.
I think it was, I think it's called the it has to do with roads and wilderness.
And I know this is out
Yeah.
of the blue, and I'm just
No,
threw it at you,
it's
but
I should know these things. That that basically like killed that at the time. I think these days, I mean, would I still love a ski resort? Yes. But with the amount that Willamette Pass and Mount Ashland have struggled to just be able to stay open along with snowfall each year,
yeah,
I don't know if that's maybe if somebody else private wants to do please, that'd be
Right.
great. But I'm not sure if that's like where the county should be spending our energy. We've been more focused on, again, like if we could get a bunch more recreation on the lake, I think like that's a good recreation. It's a little more modern. And then continue with trails. I mean, we have some of the best mountain biking and hiking trails in the country, and we need to keep doing more.
Right,
Because that's
right.
like something we can do.
And that wasn't like we need to have a ski resort. I was just curious if that's ever been kicked around since
Yeah.
that
Oh,
time. So
not. I haven't really heard. I think again because I think sort of Mother Nature is so unpredictable with the
Right.
snowfall now that I think people are like, even if we did invest all the time, energy, and money, would it be able to be open enough?
right,
I mean, this year it would have, but
right,
most years maybe not.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just circling back to the OIT thing, it's kind of a 50-50 now. I think if you're on the healthcare side, you're going to find a hospital somewhere. That's just the nature of it. But all the computer, the software, the coding, it's changed now. You can do probably most of all that online anymore.
Mhm.
Get your job at the big company, find a nice place to live.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you make such a great point, and this was really welcome statistics that we learned around. I think it was coming out of 2020, maybe, or 2021 or 2022, because of exactly what you're saying. We're a place where now that I mean, my gosh, Zoom, all these things that we can do
Mhm.
now where you can kind of work from anywhere made rural communities, especially attractive ones like ours, even more attractive, right? Because it's like get out of the stupid cities and come places like Klamath, get paid in sunshine, and you can do your work. So, where I was talking about the data, we were I think the second fastest growing in a county GDP in Oregon,
Oh,
which I think the only one that grew faster than us or better than us was Crook County, which has like Prineville and Facebook and all of that. But our growth was the second best in the state. And we actually, that really attractive age demographic, I'm not going to get it perfect, but it's like, let's say 21 to 49, maybe. That's like the one of the age groups that everyone wants. That's the desirable. We outpaced, I think, every other county in Oregon in growth in that attractive age range. So we're doing it and we're successful, but we want more.
Right.
oh, absolutely.
I want them all. I don't just want a few of them. I want all the young, smart kids. And just quick plug I mean, not that I need to plug OAT. Everybody is supportive of Oregon Tech, but I was on the founding. So when Oregon Tech got its own board of trustees, I was on that founding board of trustees. And it was some of the most fun and rewarding and amazing work that I've ever got to do. And I just like, it can't be understated what a big deal it is that we have Oregon Tech
Right.
or, Oregon's Polytechnic Institute. It's such a quality organization. It's such a quality institution, not organization. And rural communities across the country would kill to have it, really. So lucky us. And
Right.
Crater Lake and just all these things that we have. I'm just like, and the
We have a
base.
national park in our
I
backyard.
know.
right?
Like, do people
Yeah.
not realize how lucky? I mean, not you
We're
make your luck.
fortunate.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
make your luck in some ways, and then in some ways, Oregon Tech's been here a long time. Crater Lake's amazing. The base, like we have a lot going for us.
Yep. Yeah. And just the geography. It's
I know,
beautiful here.
It's so beautiful.
I left the East Bay area when I moved up here.
Okay.
And the fact that I don't have to ride an hour and a half on my motorcycle to actually see a pine tree is fantastic.
know.
I mean, it's 10 minutes away. So no matter which direction I go. So
I know.
It's just, and camping and yeah, it's, I've never had a regret moving here. So
Well, and yeah, and so and we don't have to like focus too much on the negative, but like the naysayers, the negative, the haters, and whatever. Okay, I mean, I get it. Like if you're personally frustrated, there's we all go through hard times. I get it, but I just really would implore those people like that really want to beat up on Klamath a lot. Just flip the narrative in your head. Like you make the choice to try at least to see all the good, and then tackle the challenges for sure. But
I would say go spend the weekend in Stockton. Let's see what you think of
yeah,
Klamath.
exactly. So we bullied.
Oh, here we
I-
go, another state.
Yeah, now we're bullying California. I like it. Can we like?
You know why it's always windy in Oregon, right?
Oh, why?
Because California sucks and Washington blows.
Oh, that's a good one. I was literally just going to say to
Just
to
went
beat
there.
up on Washington because we did Idaho and California, so you did it. It was like
Got it covered.
Love it, love it.
So supporting energy development.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those areas where Klamath still has a lot of opportunity. As we want to have a strong economic base, energy development's very important. It can be controversial. People don't like solar in their backyard. Totally get it. But
I don't know why.
well, and
Well, you have it on your roof, not on your backyard.
yeah, I mean, I get
Where
it.
you put it, I'd like the no electric bill. So
I do like I like all the energy things. I really do, but I also understand where it can be somewhat controversial. We still underutilize the geothermal. I mean, the development of more
Right.
geothermal. I mean, there's still a lot more opportunity in energy. We're really those who are much smarter than me say that we're really kind of an energy superhighway just because of where we're located, and so we just need to continue. That is part of our. They always say smart financial people, diversify your portfolio. Like energy development is part of our community's portfolio in terms of our economic development. So keep your eye on that. Like there's still opportunity there, and that's only going to become more important. I'm a huge, I'm really excited about AI. Again, there's challenges there, and there's things we have to be cautious about for sure. But I think we're in like such an exciting time as humans that it rivals probably some of the biggest developments ever as people.
All right.
It's amazing. And so I think being really smart about that in terms of using it to promote and develop efficiencies in our processes and systems, whether it's government or business or whatever, so that we can be more successful. And it's very energy intensive. And so I just think energy needs as a country are going to keep increasing, and we're in a good place for that. So that's why I said that's something just people don't talk about a lot, but they should. It's important.
Well, and you make a good point, and it's something I hadn't even thought of, is that our geothermal is way underutilized.
Way in.
And if we could find, it would take an investment, an energy company of some kind, maybe like the cogen folks, to come in and actually do some research on that and see if we couldn't build a power plant, run on geothermal or primarily on geothermal.
I would not be surprised if there is the pump storage project, and there's are some interesting and innovative energy projects. I would not be surprised if one of these big investors and utilities and or private equity firms or something does decide to invest more in geothermal because the resource is there,
Right.
and the needs are there.
And it would be so one of my things, wind power and solar power. Sorry, buddy. Solar on the roof, I get that. But when you cover 400 acres in solar panels that used to grow food, that's a tough sell for me. I used to deliver fuel to those people when they were building those. And I was flat out told by more than one individual that they would never recoup the energy spent to build the solar farm as in drawing that energy back out of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this was down in Merrill area, so Malin, Merrill, in between. So geothermal is great. Wind power, I'm still not 100% sold on that. I'm not against it. You see all these stories about the windmill blades and that aren't biodegradable, that just get buried in landfills, and that I would rather see something more sustainable than that. I'm a big fan of dams. I'll just leave that alone and make that statement. But
Hydropower had its
it's
role,
free
had
energy.
its place. Yeah, hydropower
Yeah.
had its place for sure.
Well-
But yeah, well, I can maybe, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No.
I can put a bow on the fact that I think there's just still opportunity there.
Sure.
Well, and so we've kind of talked this one. So have you?
Agree to disagree
Well,
sometimes.
have you had? So there's a new spin. Have you heard of the nuclear energy? So
You're setting me up. You're
no.
smiling.
I just want to get your take. So
I'm
yeah.
smiling
So
because how it's
you have
phrased
to
is how-
insert that pause. So nuclear energy.
Otherwise known as nuclear.
Yes. It is the new spin on nuclear because it got the bat. Yes, terrible stuff has happened because of maintenance not being done and whatever. They have done leaps and bounds on nuclear energy that outperforms cheaper, whatever you want to call it. It's the best sustainable long term, and I just wanted to get your take because nobody. I'm on opposites. I can go solar and I can go nuclear, and he's just.
I'm not against nuclear at all.
I'm pretty uninformed, to be honest, about that, and so I have heard one of my colleagues, a commissioner, not local, is really starting to talk about that, and I heard him talk about it with the governor, even of like, hey, I know just by name you're not going to like this, but could I give you some data, and so I think some of those conversations are happening. Again, I consider myself pretty uninformed, so I wouldn't really want to say either way, but I think we need to look at, I will always say that like looking at everything with a modern lens, because we have changed so much in the last like 3 and 4 decades, technology, that I don't, if technology has made it so that it can be done much, much more safely. I mean, I don't like to throw anything off the table without taking a modern lens to it.
So I've done some research and recently too on nuclear. Do you realize all of our aircraft carriers are nuclear powered? All of our submarines are, if not all, just about all, are nuclear powered and have been for decades. And they will run, I forget, it's like give or take a 5-pound isotope that will power that thing for 30 years.
6-pack right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so for
seriously,
30
yeah.
years, that thing will go to sea and be out for 30 years. And I have yet to hear of an accident.
And of course, you would on this day and age. If
absolutely.
The USS whatever blew up in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, or this
why'd
had
that
a leak
happen?
and killed the
Right.
whole crew and it sank or whatever. I mean, God forbid, but you would know.
Yes.
So I really believe in the steps that we've made in that direction. Again, we're kind of stepping out because that's not a county commissioner's decision to make. It's you can say yay or nay, I like the idea or I don't, but that's kind of a state thing, I would think.
Yeah, if not, state and probably heavily
Federal.
regulated federally, but
Yeah.
I think those conversations will start happening more around the state, though. I do.
And they need to. I mean, we continue to grow population wise, we continue to grow commerce wise. That all requires power. It's going to have to come from somewhere. So,
Yeah, our country's energy needs are only going to increase, and they're going to increase significantly
yeah,
with AI.
yeah.
When the solar for me is kind of fighting a big guy. It's kind of like her and the feds and whatever. You know, if you're gonna raise the power, there's other ways of doing it. Solar on the house is cheaper than an electric bill. It's the same. I don't.
And I'm not 100% against solar. I know we've had the discussion back and forth. I'm waiting for the efficiency level.
To my side of the table.
No, I'm good.
Teasing you.
And then one other point that you've got here on I asked you for a bullet point or a bullet list of things you'd like to talk about, and this one makes you my new best friend because you're on the OLCC now.
Yes, this is my newest assignment. So
So I'm going to be giving you a list of whiskeys to keep an eye out for.
I am happy to do that for you. So for those who don't know, the OLCC is the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. It's very old. It was it might be the oldest institution in sort of the state or commission in that it was developed literally right after Prohibition.
Hmm.
One thing that's just fascinating. So I'm very new, and so I am not an expert. I have been to 2 meetings, but I'm really excited about the work, and here's why: because the policies around, especially around alcohol, the cannabis stuff is new, and I'm very unfamiliar with that. I need to learn. And so far, it hasn't come across our no big policy issues have come across the OLCC in my 2 meetings, or I would know. But the alcohol policy is very interesting. The Oregon system is interesting. It's like I said, it was literally developed right after Prohibition. There's parts of it that that have a lot of wisdom, and there's parts of it that are probably antiquated. And so I'm excited to dive in. It's probably the oddest commission I've ever been on in terms of scope. So, and as I was being brought on, I didn't even really know all the things the OLCC does. So, not only are we policymakers, but of course also the legislature is policymakers related to it. But we actually the licensees that get liquor stores, we actually approve those as the commission. So people kind of almost like not like Shark Tank. That's a little bit of a strong, but people kind of come and make a pitch to us. If you do secure a license to run a liquor store in this state, it's kind of a game change for families because it's a very good business. It's very regulated, but it's like they don't really fail. Like liquor stores in this state don't really fail. So it's kind of a sure thing business. And we are the ones that select them, which to me, it's like it's between that and the policy work. It's a very odd commission in terms of scope, but I'm excited to be there. I may be the only person from Klamath County that's ever been on it. I don't know that for certain, but definitely nobody could remember within the last like 4 decades, anyone from this county being on it. So I'm very excited to represent. I'm super excited to learn. And I told the new director yesterday morning, I had coffee with her and I shared with her, I said, I'm not like a throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's probably things we're doing well, but I'm going to be a challenger. Like if there's things that are going on that are just sort of because the way we've always done it since Prohibition, I'm going to be one of those people that's like, why do we do it like that?
Yeah.
It's 2025. Can we revisit this? And some of it, again, might still stand up, but I've just noticed it a lot in government in general. It's like once institutions start, you really usually just get little tweaks. Hardly anybody ever usually comes in and says, but what if we like dropped aliens here today? What would they do? Would they do this? Or, that's kind of a tongue-in-cheek example, but like I like a 30,000-foot view. I like reimagining things. And so I'm really excited to serve on the OLCC.
Good. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I was recommended by the governor but I had to be confirmed by the legislature, and that always makes me nervous. Like, what if they sit there on the floor of the House or Senate and say bad things about me? That'd be very embarrassing. My parents would be very upset. So, yeah. Thanks.
There's one thing I might, I guess, suggest. I know people that work on the new side of the CC,
Okay.
which is the cannabis side of
Right.
things.
You might need to introduce me. Like, I want to learn.
I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if they are looking at alcohol and cannabis as equals under a commission, they're not treating it that way. And I mean, what the regulations and the requirements that it's not like you can walk into a dispensary and buy what you want like you would walk into a liquor store and buy alcohol. It's not that you can't, but they are, got to see your ID like 4 times, and they are constantly under pressure to. They're under a microscope on everything that they do, where a liquor store is really not. I mean, but by the same thing, since Prohibition, alcohol's been readily available. People are comfortable with it, but I don't think it's any less of a threat, I guess. As far as abuse or overuse or something, I could see, driving under the influence isn't just alcohol, but it isn't just cannabis either. So I think they need to have a broader view of, if we're going to make this legal in the state and we're going to treat it like a equal to alcohol, then they need to treat it like an equal to alcohol. The only part that I see as a variation there is one is federally legal and one is not, and that might be part of why it's so under the gun, and I don't know the answer there. And they don't either.
I think you're probably right. And so the one thing I did learn from the director is that of the states who have legalized cannabis, yes, Oregon is often pointed to, I guess, as like a forerunner, a model that other states are looking to, because we've done it a little longer, but we still haven't done it very long.
Right.
So
it's
there's
new
still,
pretty much everywhere still.
yeah,
Newer. Yeah.
Historically,
Right.
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Evolving. It's
Right.
definitely evolving, and I think it's very interesting policy work. I also, and this also, to everyone's knowledge, I was the first person that's ever been on. I'm on the state's Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission, and there's never been somebody that's been on both. And why I bring that up is, as a state, or as in my role, it's just really important that we continue to find a balance between economic development, opportunity, and freedom. It's a substance that we are legally allowed to drink when you're of age. We have to balance that with the impacts on communities of because we all pay if when we have things related to alcohol or drug misuse that cause problems, whether it's people at the jail or all these things. So it's and health, like there's a lot of health implications too, which again we all end up paying for. So we have to I should speak more eloquently. We have to make sure we're always balancing community need and community detriments with the economic development and the freedom and all of that. And so that's why it makes me really excited, because I think it's really interesting policy work, and I'm thrilled to deep dive on it.
And if I'm going to counter my own argument, the flip side, and I brought this to their attention too, is
I like that you argue with yourself. That makes my
yeah,
more easy.
you don't want to live in my head, trust me.
Let you argue.
But no, it's the fact that when they complain to me about stuff like that, and they've actually said, "Can you bring it up on the show?" I'm like, it's a touchy subject, but yeah, at some point I will, and I guess today I decided to make it the point. But the fact of the matter is, if somebody is so inclined and they're of age, you can still procure the product if you want to. It's not like you have to jump through hoops, fill out forms or anything like that. You can still get it. It's just, it's not treated the same as alcohol. And that's their thing is, it does slightly different effect, different way of consuming it. Bottom line is, if we're going to legalize it like we legalized alcohol, not putting everybody under a microscope every time they come into our store. So
that's I'm sure that's a fair argument.
Yeah,
And I do want to meet more of the people that are in industry and learn from them on the alcohol side and on the cannabis side. And just, I mean, I am not single-handedly, and no one single-handedly it's going to make it illegal or change everything. Or so now that I'm in the role, I just want it to be the best system that it can be.
Sure,
And
sure.
I hope to help that. And man, I'm going to learn a lot. Which
Yeah.
I love.
I'm not. I'm happy for you, and honestly, I think I'm jealous. I don't know. It's work, but I'm still kind of. We're both bourbon nuts, primarily.
What's the best bourbon you've ever had?
George T. Stag is my
That's
go-to.
That's your
I
favorite.
Yep. So, but as you can see, and I don't know if you notice in the house, I've got a pretty good variety.
You do.
Well,
I don't know if it shows on camera, but he does.
And I'm glad it changed just a little bit because the OLCC, and not banging on it, they did some dirty stuff. I don't know, 2-3 years ago.
They
There
were
was some
keeping all the
corruption.
good stuff for
They were
themselves.
they were keeping all the
There
good
was
stuff. So
corruption. That was an embarrassment.
all that being said, yes. But all that being said, so I don't know, 3-4 months ago, a local establishment right around the corner got a bottle of 10-year Rip Van Winkle, which is another, call it prize bottle.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It was nice to see the little store around the corner getting something like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, it should be fair.
right.
It should be fair. And the corruption. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. There was corruption. At
Right.
The agency,
Yeah.
and they've had to. They have had a lot of changes, a lot of reform. I mean, talk about a microscope on them now. The new director is I don't know her all that well, but she's very, she seems to be a highly intelligent and very good person. And I feel very confident that the corruption, that's a chapter in the past. But yeah, what an embarrassment for our state. Yeah. But, as it's an old institution, and I think we all have to be watchdogs. You guys do it with having this program. I try to do it in my role. We all have to be watchdogs looking for corruption. And I do think the vast majority of people that work in government do it for the right reasons. They do it with good intentions, and they want to do good. But that doesn't mean, just like anything, any business, any entity. I mean, heck, kids like little leagues teams, have things that get weird. There's always going to be.
We're all
humans.
human,
Yeah, we're all
exactly.
humans, so there's going to be things, but we do have to be. The collective has to be looking out for that.
Yeah. Sometimes somebody has to hold up a mirror.
Yes. I agree.
But that being said, no, happy to see that you got that position, and
Thank you.
I'd be curious 6 months, 8 months, whatever down the road to see what your impressions are once you've gotten your
Well,
feet wet there.
Let's do a follow-up at some point.
Love to.
Once I have a little more experience on the commission and can speak more intelligently and with more information, I would love to share. I would love to share with you. And I know that's kind of our last one. I expect to get invited back on the show at some point.
Absolutely.
I don't think I was that much of a jerk. I brought beer. I brought snacks. I'm like, I feel like I should get invited again.
Andy Nichols, you have a new standard.
Well, he did bring a little gift for us. Just
He-
wasn't.
oh, he did. That's right.
Just
That's
wasn't on
right.
camera, so not.
That's
Kelly.
right. All right.
Kelly won him
So-
by on
Yeah.
camera, I guess. I don't.
No, you guys
So-
are awesome. Thank you for the work you do for our community, because I think, and this is, again, journalism background. Way back in the day, there used to be, ABC, NBC, CBS, and there was, the major papers and things. There was like some places to get information. I feel like that's it has now evolved a lot, and a lot of the ways that our community gets information is through programs like yours. And so thank you for doing that, because people need to be informed. They deserve to be informed.
We strive to be as accurate as we can be, and like with Ryan, when I was wrong, I'm more than happy to admit I'm wrong. When I'm right, I'm going to stick to my guns, but I'm always willing to learn and hear other opinion. But regardless, what we do here, we're trying to make for a better Klamath County.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my ultimate goal, is to make this a place that's fair, that's happy, that people can succeed in. that's kind of my vision, and we have fun doing it, and we get to meet really cool people. And I've got to give a shout out to the county commissioner's office, because I have extended invitations to, I won't go to specifics, but just about every government entity in Klamath County. You guys are the only ones besides water districts that have responded and have come on the show and have been
Embraced
very,
it,
yeah, embraced it. And it's really appreciated. And I'm sure our viewers appreciate that too, that transparency is a big word these days, and for good reason. You know, there's a lot of misinformation, whether it's on TV, on the internet, Facebook, whatever. And so we try to cut through all of the crap, for lack of a better way to put it, and actually talk to the people that have their
And what
hands
better
on.
way to do
Yeah.
it than this of like, you can't really, I mean, what are you going to like splice me saying one thing and another? You're not. Like, this is just how more transparent can you get, really, and
And
accurate.
you'll find when this airs, I do editing and uploading and that. My job's really easy because I don't edit things out. And if you watch, you can tell when you watch playback on YouTube if something's been clipped or edited or whatever. I don't. I want, it might be 2 hours long, but I want everybody to know everything that was said, not the parts that I choose to put out. So,
Yeah, thank you for having that integrity. And I knew that about the show. I had heard good things. But I do welcome anyone watching. Get a hold of me if you have questions or questions about anything. I get random questions. Our office might get the most random questions. Our administrator, Haley Huffman, she gets a lot of strange phone calls, but we're happy to answer them.
she's a sweetheart, by the way. I
She's
met her the other day. And,
The greatest.
Yeah.
And so, we're happy to answer questions. I am very honest about there's a lot I don't know. But I'm happy to try to find it if it's, and I don't say, sometimes I do have to say like, well, that's the state or that's the city, but I'm happy to like give a warm handoff to the right person, not just like, that's not the county. Don't ask me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll help you find the answer. I probably want to know too, even if it is the city or the state or whatever. So happy to help. And I do think that like, I think most of the things we talked about today are generally things like people can get on board on. Like, who's going to be like, no, don't have those Oregon Tech students here, or like, screw the base. Like, no, I don't think we're
leave
gonna
the
be
lake
like
a
that.
mess.
Yeah. Like, no more economic development. I mean, mostly we've talked about things, but I do recognize that, people are going to have different opinions with me than me sometimes. But I've said before, and I truly believe this, that I think if people sat in my chair with the same information that I have and also the same responsibility, I think like 95% of the time they're going to probably make the same decision I make. I'm a pretty reasonable person. I'm pretty pragmatic. I ask a lot of questions. I care a lot, and now I have some experience. I've seen a lot of things. So, but all that to say, if someone's watching and there's something they don't like or they have a question on or they totally disagree, that's fine. Like, let me know. And I've made a joke before, but it's true. I'm like, my own dad disagrees with me a lot. There's a lot of things I do, and he's like, I don't think that's right. And I'm like, okay, I'm in this seat, and this is the decision I made, but I'll hear you out. So I just think we and my colleagues are like this too. We're just all about respectful conversation and meetings of the minds and learning from each other. And I agree with you that I like what you said about if you're wrong, you'll say it. There's things I've been wrong about for sure.
You, in my opinion, and how I operate, you earn somebody's trust when you do make a mistake and you say, that was me. Sorry, my bad.
Yep.
And own up to it. And then, just don't do it again.
Yeah,
So,
extreme ownership is a great book. I'm not through the whole thing, but it's a former Navy SEALs wrote it. So good. And as the name suggests, it's really about one of the biggest keys to leadership is that whole like the buck stops here and you are going to make mistakes as a leader. I make mistakes probably regularly, but owning them and just and it's that's on me. And even if the mistakes are sort of down the chain, if you will, like one of my departments, still ultimately that's my responsibility, and I own that, and I'm good with that.
well, and if you don't make mistakes, you're probably not trying.
Exactly. I Actually, I love that you said that too, because that's something I was just sharing with the OLCC director, that I've coached staff at times. I've said, I want you to lose sometimes, or like, I want you to make a mistake, because exactly that, then you're trying something and not being so afraid. I'm never going to beat up on one of my staff members if if something doesn't quite work out, if they did it, with integrity and they were thoughtful. Now, if they were just like blasting through something and were reckless, I guess, that's a different thing. But not my staff, your county staff is not reckless. They're great. And so if something doesn't quite go the way they were thinking, but they tried, that's okay. We're all like you said, and we all said, we're all human. We're all, at the end of the day, we're going to make mistakes. But I guess one of the most important things for me, for, county staff and the work that I do, is we just have to have the right intentions. We have to all want our community to move forward, our community to be all the things we talked about: happy, healthy, vibrant. I think if we all have that baseline of wanting those things, we already are there, but we're going to keep getting toward that, and we're going to make some mistakes along the way. That's okay. Because we're going to learn and we're going to grow.
Well, and we should probably get to wrap this up, but I just want to say, from an outsider looking in, and I know all three of you better now, I didn't really, but between you and Derek and Andy, I think we've got a diverse but well focused on the benefit of Klamath County group of commissioners. You guys all want what's best for the community. You all have your own visions and directions that you're wanting to pursue, but that's what we need. If everybody was just focused on one thing at a time, it's I don't know. I think it's good to have some diversity, as long as the intent is the same. And I feel like we have that.
Row in the same direction. We sometimes maybe are, I don't know if this analogy will quite work, but I'll try. We row in the same direction. We might have a little bit of a different color oar, but we are all generally going in the same way. And you do not want 3 Commissioner Nichols or 3 Commissioner Mintys or you certainly don't want 3 Commissioner. Joke. But
Sorry, Derek.
you want each of us. You really do. And I like what you said about there's diversity, but there's also a common vision and
goal.
purpose. We do all really care about Klamath. We do all really want Klamath to be successful. Do we have a little bit of a different, like I said, a different color, or maybe, but we're all rowing in the same direction.
Well, and just to interject something real quick, just select the downtown hotel and the new food coming in, the restaurants, Winco finally breaking ground. There's a lot of stuff, really. I mean, the hotel's older. The last 2-3 years.
Amazon.
It's just all the pieces. We don't want the Salem, but you need comfort stuff, like all that put together to expand, to keep the OIT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need the Chipotle and the Jersey Mike's.
Right.
I love our and this is no shade on them. I love our local restaurants.
Yep.
I love to go to Nibley's. I love to go to Lipa Taste.
No.
And I think it's cool that we have Chipotle and Jersey Mike's too.
Right.
And I think this is, and maybe I know we're trying to wrap up, but I will say this one last thing because it's so strong on my heart, is that I am very much of the belief, let's have it all.
Right.
Why does it have to be either or? Why does it have to be, either like a strict local business or this or that? I want it all. Or it's not just just recreation on the lake or just fish or just farms or whatever. Let's think expansive. I mean, call me greedy, but I want it all.
We have the foundations here to have it all.
Right.
We just have to take advantage of it.
Exactly. Well said.
Well, Kelly, thank you very
Oh my
much
gosh.
for being on the program.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
And
I will,
the beer?
Have a beer with you guys any day. Let's cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to a great program, meeting new friends.
Thank you very much.